is this story is taking place during the time of King Nebuchadnezzar, and there is a foreign army commanded by Holofernes coming against the children of Israel. And these children of Israel are on a hill in a city that's walled. It's not easy to overthrow it or take it. So they have cut off their water source, the foreign army, and are attempting to go in and take over the city once they are weak. So the children of Israel that live there, the men decide that they're going to give Yahweh a few days to do something, and then if he doesn't show up, they're going to give themselves over to Holofernes. So that's where Judith comes in. She doesn't think that that is a godly thing to do, or the right thing to do, I should say. And she doesn't think that that's what they should do, and she steps in. And but a little bit about Judith. Let's set the scene as to who Judith is. And Manasseh was her husband, of her tribe and kindred, who died in the barley harvest. For as he stood overseeing them that bound sheaves in the field, the heat came upon his head, and he fell on his bed and died in the city of Bethulia. And they buried him with his fathers in the field between Dothaim and Balamo. So Judith was a widow in her house 3 years and 4 months. And she made her tent upon the top of her house, and put sackcloth upon her loins, and wore her widow's apparel. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the new moons and the new moons and the feasts and the solemn days of the house of Israel. She was also of a goodly countenance, and very beautiful to behold. And her husband Manasseh had left her gold and silver, and menservants and maidservants, and cattle and land, and she remained upon them. And there was none that gave her an ill word, and she feared Yahuah greatly. Now when she heard the evil words of the people against the governor, that they fainted for lack of water, for Judith had heard all the words that Ozias had spoken unto them, and that he had sworn to deliver the city unto the Assyrians after 5 days. So she goes in to the council, and she speaks her mind. They came to her, and she said unto them, Hear me now, O ye governors of the inhabitants of Bethulia, for your words that ye have spoken before the people this day are not right, touching this oath which ye made and pronounced between Elohim and you, and have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, unless within these days Yahuah turn to help you. And now who are ye that ye have tempted Yahuah this day, and stand instead of God among the children of men? And now try the Lord, Yahuah Almighty, but ye shall never know anything. For ye cannot find the depth of the heart of man, neither can ye perceive the things that he thinketh. Then how can ye search out Yahuah that hath made all these things, and know his mind, or comprehend his purpose? Nay, my brethren, provoke not Yahuah our Elohim to anger, for he will not help us within these 5 days. He hath power to defend us when he will, even every day, or to destroy us before our enemies. Do not bind the counsels of Yahuah our Elohim, for Elohim is not as man, that he may be threatened. Neither is he as the son of man, that he should be wavering. Therefore let us wait for salvation of him, and call upon him to help us, and he will hear our voice, if it please him. So the council hears out her words, and they ask her, Okay, righteous woman, why don't you pray for us that Yahweh will send us rain to fill our cisterns, so we'll be okay. And this is part of her reply. Ye shall stand this night in the gate, and I will go forth with my waiting woman, and within the days that ye have promised to deliver the city to our enemies, Yahuah will visit Israel by my hand. But inquire not ye of mine act, for I will not declare it unto you, till the things be finished that I do. Then said Ozias the prince unto her, Go in peace, and Yahuah Almighty be before thee to take vengeance on our enemies. So they returned from the tent and went to their wards. Judith fell upon her face and put ashes upon her head and uncovered the sackcloth wherewith she was clothed. And about the time that the incense of that evening was offered in Jerusalem, in the house of Yahuah, Judith cried out with a loud voice. So she cries out to Yahuah and asks him to help her. She puts ashes on her head and sackcloth on and asks him for help. In her prayer, she reminds him of how many of the Israeli women have been raped in the past and taken, and how the Israels have been turned into servants and several things like this, and she asks for vengeance. Then, after she's done with her prayer, that's where we're picking up right now in chapter 10, verse 3. And pulled off the sackcloth which she had on, and put off the garments of her widowhood, and washed her body all over with water, and anointed herself with precious ointment, and braided the hair of her head, and put on a tire upon it, and put on her garments of gladness, wherewith she was clad during the life of Manasseh her husband. And she took sandals upon her feet, and put about her bracelets, and her chains, and her rings, and her earrings, and all her ornaments, and decked herself bravely, to allure the eyes of all men that should see her. Then she gave her maid a bottle of wine, a cruse of oil, and filled a bag with parched corn, and lumps of figs, and with fine bread. So she folded all these things together, and laid them upon her. Thus they went forth to the gate of the city of Bethulah, and found standing there Ozias and the ancients of the city, Shambres and Sharmas. It's probably not pronounced that way at all. And when they saw her, that her countenance was altered, and her apparel was changed, they wondered at her beauty very greatly, and said unto her, The Elohim of our fathers give thee favor, and accomplish thine enterprises to the glory of the children of Yasharel, and to the exaltation of Jerusalem. Then they worshipped Elohim. Okay, so now Judith is all decked out, and she journeys down the hill to the encampment of Holofernes, the captain of the enemy's army. When she gets there, the guys are so taken with her beauty, they're falling all over themselves, and they take her in to see Holofernes, who also is greatly taken with her beauty. And she's there for 3 days. She tells the truth that Yahuah fights for them as long as they are adhering only to him and don't have false gods and false idols. But she skews it a little bit in saying that, there's supposed to be this shipment coming from Jerusalem, and if you wait for just the right time, then when they're sinning, then go in and attack them. But if you attack them when they're not sinning, that Yahweh will defend them. And so he decides her words are good, and he starts to look for a way that he can deceive her. And her agreement to stay there with them is that she can go out at night and pray, because she says that she's a religious woman and she needs to go outside the camp to pray at night, which she does. She goes outside and prays. She washes herself. She gets clean. She comes in each time. So on the third evening, Holofernes decides, what am I doing, man? I got to do a great banquet for her and for her honor, or we're going to be laughed to scorn. So he makes up this little story that, he's going to look bad in the eyes of other people if he doesn't hold a great banquet for her. So he holds a great banquet for her, but really the only two people at the banquet are Holofernes and Judith, and they're sitting across from each other. And let me find that part, and we'll pick up there. Now when Judith came in and sat down, Holofernes, his heart was ravished with her. and his mind was moved, and he desired greatly her company, for he had waited a time to deceive her from the day that he had seen her. Then said Holofernes unto her, Drink now, and be merry with us. So Judith said, I will drink now, my lord, because my life is magnified in me this day, more than all the days since I was born. Which it was, but not because of Holofernes, though I'm sure he took it that way. Then she took and ate and drank before him what her maid had prepared. And Holofernes took great delight in her, and drank more wine than he had drunk at any time in one day since he was born. So he was plastered. Now when the evening was come, his servants made haste to depart, and Bagoas shut his tent without, and dismissed the waiters from the presence of his lord. And they went to their beds, for they were all weary, because the feast had been long. And Judith was left alone in the tent, and Holofernes lying upon his bed, for he was filled with wine. Now Judith had commanded her maid to stand without her bedchamber, and to wait for her, coming forth as she did daily, for she had said she would go forth to her prayers, and she spoke to Bagoas concerning to the same purpose. So all went forth, and none was left in the bedchamber, neither little nor great. Then Judith, standing by his bed, said in her heart, O Yahuah of all power, look at this present upon the works of my hands for the exaltation of Jerusalem. For now is the time to help thine inheritance and to execute thine enterprises with the destruction of the enemies which are risen against us. Then she came to the pillar of the bed, which was at Holofernes' head, and took down his falchion from thence, and approached his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head, and said, Strengthen me, O Yahuah Elohim of Israel, this day. And she smote twice upon his neck with all her might, and she took away his head from him, and tumbled his body down from the bed, and pulled down the canopy from the pillars. And after she went forth and gave Holofernes his head to her maid, and she put it in her bag of meat. So they twain went together to their custom unto prayer. And when they passed the camp, they compassed the valley, and went up the mountain of Bethulah, and came to the gates thereof. Okay, so we Susanna, that Yahweh likes to rescue us. He cares enough to rescue us from men that are doing us harm. And now in Judith, we see that he will use a heroine if the men are too afraid, if they shrug their responsibilities, if they don't seek Yahuah and what he wants to do and how he wants to do it, then he will use whoever falls on their face before him and seeks him. So I love these stories. We see in the very first part, when I was talking about John, he was rewarded for loving Mary, for taking care of Yeshua's mother Mary, so that he was the only one that was not martyred. Not only was he not martyred, but he went to the Isle of Patmos and recorded the book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation is the revelation of our Messiah. Go back and read that very first chapter. It's not the revelations of end times, but the revelation of our Messiah. So because he loved the Messiah enough to stand there and go through the pain of the cross with Yeshua, and because he loved Yeshua enough to take care of his mother, he was rewarded. So it shows the heart of our Creator for women. It shows the heart of our Creator when we care about others. All of these stories that we read today, I would encourage you to get them and read them for yourself. If you were following along with me, then you probably saw some typos, but these two books, Susanna and Judith, were part again of the KJV 1611, and they are in my version of the Bible, the Sefer that I read now. That's CEPHER. And these books are just filled with wonderful things that we should know, that should never have been taken from us. So I hope that these stories will show you Yahweh's heart towards us. And I pray that you, if you're a woman watching this, that you will feel and know and experience His love. I pray that you will know and experience His love for you in your life as an individual. But the greater we seek Him, the more we kneel before Him, the more we are quiet before Him, sing His praises, not what He does for us, but who He is. The more we do these things, the more we will see Him at work in our lives. So I would really like to encourage you all to do that. Again, the gospel that is translated directly from Hebrew, if you want to look that up, is HebrewGospels.com. And I pray that you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.